Good morning, everyone. Welcome and happy you could join. My name is Monique, and today we'll be going through an activity in one of the interactive math lessons on CK-12. I look forward to your participation. I am happy to show you the cafe, which is our discussion forum here on CK-12. There is a link in the YouTube description straight to the cafe post, but while we wait for everyone to get settled in, I'll show you how to get to the cafe from the CK-12 homepage. So this is the homepage of ck12.org. If you go to the Explore tab, you can see all of our awesome resources. We're going to head straight to the cafe for today. Now, there's a bunch of cool different cafes that you can ask questions in and even answer questions in. I wanted to point out a personal favorite of mine, the Plex Corner, where you can learn about and discuss all of the interactives here we have on CK-12. For today's lesson, we're going to go to CK-12 Live. The first post you see has the link to our YouTube channel and our schedule for when we go live. And then the next post will be the lesson for today. I just wanted to take some time to go back to the post from our last lesson on Tuesday. In case you missed it, you can rewatch the recording after this lesson. But let's look at some of the answers to the questions that I asked. So the other day I asked, what other objects can we measure the area of other than the example of a piece of paper that I gave from last time? And some of you had some great ideas. For example, my house, how big my TV is, pizza, that's a good one, the cover of a book, a paper plate. I really appreciate this. These are wonderful answers. So anyways, we're going to do something similar today. So going back to the post for today's lesson, how we're going to use Cafe is you'll be able to see my questions that I've already typed out for you. And basically, I'll ask a question like this. If you could be any animal, which one would you be? So you can hit the comment button here and type in your answer. So for example, if I could be any animal, I would be a sloth because I would sleep all day. And then over here, I'll be able to see your responses. So let's go to the lesson for today. You can continue typing your answers, but I'll open the link to the lesson, which is in this post. And on this page, we can just hit the start button to start the lesson. I just wanted to point out that if you needed some other ways to learn after this lesson, there are some awesome resources on CK-12 right down here. But for now, we'll start the lesson. Now we are in lesson 9.2 called Compose into Rectangles. If we open up the table of contents, we can see this is the second lesson of chapter 9, which is on surface area and volume. Now, if you remember from last time, I talked about a piece of paper and how we might be able to find the area of this piece of paper. We can divide the paper into unit squares and count the unit squares to find the area. But this works because the piece of paper is rectangular. What if we were trying to find the area of something, say like my CK-12 shirt? The shirt, we can try and measure the width, the length of the shirt, but it has diagonals, there's little parts, so it's hard to make squares and count them from a shirt. But I would still need to find the area if I wanted to, say, make another shirt just like it. I would need to know the area in order to know how much fabric to buy and how big it would be when I sewed it. So obviously, there are a lot of shapes in our real world that we would need to find the area of, even though it's not rectangular. So why don't you go to the cafe and answer this under question number 2. What other shapes or objects that are not rectangles would we want to find the area of? So under question number 2 in the cafe. You can hit the comment button, type in your answers. Now, while you do that, I'm going to jump into the lesson. The first activity I will let you do on your own. It includes an interactive and a question for you to answer. But I'm going to move on to this interactive. So I'm going to start the interactive by hitting the try it button. And looks like our first shape is a parallelogram. So the parallelogram has a diagonal edge, so we can't quite count this square. But if there's a way where we could make this into a rectangle, then we would be able to count the unit squares. So why don't you answer for me in the cafe under question number 3? How would you turn this parallelogram into a rectangle? So one of my thought processes is to look at this shape, and looks like the interactive has a little hint for us. We have a blue rectangle right here, so we would be able to count the area of that, but then we have these 2 green triangles. So we might have to figure out a way to break them apart and rearrange them to make a rectangle. So I'm thinking using that triangle and maybe moving it over here next to the other triangle. So let's see what happens when we continue on with the interactive. Cool, look at that. So the interactive moved the triangle over so that now we have a rectangle, and we can count the square units. So I could count each of the squares if I wanted to, but if I already know my multiplication, then I can count how long and how wide the rectangle is. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is the length of our base. 1, 2, 3, 4 is the height. And I can multiply 4 times 4, and that'll get me 16. Okay. Now moving on to the second shape. This is a kite. A kite is a type of quadrilateral, so it has 4 sides. But you can see that it's a little offset. There's a diagonal edge, so we can't quite count the square units. So you can answer for me in the cafe under question number 4. How would I rearrange the kite into a rectangle? Let's see. The interactive has 2 green triangles and 2 blue triangles. So maybe what I can do is I can maybe do something with that triangle and that triangle. Let's see what happens when I use the interactive. Okay, looks like we're looking at this green triangle first, and we're taking it apart, flipping it over, and moving it over. That's great. So we have something that looks like a rectangle over here, but we still have this triangle sticking out over here. So let's see. We can do a similar thing with this blue triangle. And now we have a rectangle for that we can count. So the base is 1, 2 units long. The height is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units high. And 2 times 5 is 10. All right. Now this shape is a trapezoid. I'm not going to go through this entire sequence, but you can answer for me in the cafe. How would you break apart this trapezoid in order to make it a rectangle so then we can count its area? Yes, take some time in the cafe to do that. There's also another shape after this trapezoid that you'll be able to do, but I want to take some time to go to the cafe, And I wanted to see some of your answers for today. So, what are some non-rectangular shapes around your house or your room or online you may want to find the area of? Let's see. Look, an archway. Ah, I like this response. My dogs, so I know how much hair will fall off when I brush them. The area of a couch, right? Yeah, a couch has like a back, it has the cushions, it has an armrest, a triangle, paper plate, a triangle. Nice. I like these responses. Okay. Now, there's a lot more to this lesson. There are more interactives, more questions for you to do. There's even adaptive practice, which you can start by hitting that button. But I'll let you do that on your own. I wanted to point out that in this post, there's extra materials that I've linked. So if you wanted to explore more of CK-12, here are some things that are related to the lesson that we did today. If you had any more questions, there's a little space for you here under number 6. Type any questions you still have here. You can comment. I'll try my best to get to all of them and respond as soon as possible. You can ask questions about what we covered today, or even in something about the rest of the lesson. If you had any questions about that, I'll be happy to respond. If you enjoyed that lesson, feel free to come back on Tuesday. I'll be back with another math lesson at 11:30 Pacific time. Tomorrow, my friend Sonia has another interactive science lesson that she'll be going over. But until then, I hope you learned something. The big key idea that we covered today is we can take shapes that we can't easily find the area of, and we can break them apart, put them together into rectangles, which we do know how to find the area of. So I hope you enjoyed the lesson for today, and I look forward to hearing from you in the cafe. Have a lovely day.